Hey guys, welcome into the car review episode, and this week we've got the 2022 Jeep Compass, a fantastic compact crossover SUV that's practical, fuel efficient, and can even handle a bit of off-roading. Let's check this thing out. Here's one of our favorites. The Jeep Compass appeals to buyers who kind of want the small form factor, everyday practicality of a compact crossover SUV. It hauls a lot of cargo, is fairly fuel efficient, and it's just a generally very easy go-around, get-around car to drive. But of course, what really sets the Jeep Compass apart is of course its trail-rated off-roading capability. So if you're a weekend warrior or an outdoor adventurer that lives in places like Utah or Colorado, or even the West Coast where we have a lot of trails that are only accessible with an off-road vehicle, then the Jeep Compass can be a very good choice, especially if you opt for the Trailhawk trim fitted with a proper 4x4 powertrain. Now for model year 2022, the Jeep Compass has been completely revamped inside out. There have been some tweaks made to the exterior, but the most noticeable upgrades are in the interior. It uses higher end materials, it's also got a newer and improved infotainment system, an all-digital instrument cluster, and it's even got a luxury panoramic sunroof. We'll dive deeper into the details, but for now, let's talk over some of the specs, trims, and pricing. Infamous to the Jeep lineup, the Compass got a mesmerizing 7 trims to choose from, starting with the Sport trim at $28,380, while the highest high altitude trim tops off at $38,580. Our Trailhawk tester comes priced in somewhere in the middle at $35,805, which adds more off-roading capability with a slightly higher ground clearance, rugged all-season tires, and a 20:1 low crawl ratio in rock terrain mode. All models come with a 4-cylinder engine producing 180 horsepower and are available in either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive in the US. Front-wheel drive models get a 6-speed automatic transmission, while all-wheel drive models get an upgrade to a 9-speed. That upgrade will cost around $1,500 more. The standard infotainment system includes a smaller 8.4-inch screen, but we highly recommend you upgrade to the larger 10.1-inch screen, as the Uconnect system is really nice. Jeep will also be potentially introducing the 4xe plug-in hybrid powertrain, which will be very exciting as well, but we have not heard news on that quite yet. Alright, let's go over some of the off-road design features of the Jeep Compass. First off, notice that the distance between the bumper and the wheels for the front and back are kept relatively short. This is called the overhang length. It's not just for shows, but actually helps achieve better obstacle avoidance. Now the Trailhawk trim's also got higher ground clearance of 8.6 inches, which is about half an inch more than the stock setup. These dimensions help the Jeep Compass achieve an approach, breakover, and departure angle of 30, 24, and 34 degrees, which is pretty good. Now the Trailhawk trim's also got rugged 17-inch all-season tires and a reinforced steel skid plate mounted on the bottom of the vehicle to protect some of the onboard vehicle components such as the fuel tank and an electronic power steering pump in an off-road environment. Now in the front, you've also got your signature 7-bar front grille pattern here, the Jeep signature front grille pattern, but the air vents are actually located in the mid and lower sections of the front fascia where the radiators are now installed. Jeep claims that this helps improve airflow and cooling within the engine bay. In the front, you've also got these really cool red tow hooks, 2 in the front, 1 in the back, as well as an integrated trailer hitch. So that also makes it really convenient, so you don't have to make any upgrades or modifications later on. You've also got these LED headlights and these really cool recessed fog lights down below for improved visibility in foggy and dense weather conditions. Alright, so the 4x4 powertrain in the Jeep Compass is the Jeep Active Drive system. It's a full-time 4x4 system, so by default it'll operate in rear-wheel drive while you're driving in the city and highway to improve fuel efficiency. Once the rear wheels lose traction, the power transfer unit or transfer case will engage the front wheels to direct torque to all 4 wheels in the 4x4 system. Now the Jeep Active Drive system also comes with the select terrain mode for auto, snow, sand, mud, or rock mode that will automatically adjust the throttle, braking, and shift points based on the selected terrain for optimal traction and stability. Now the Trailhawk trim that we have here brings it to the next level with the Jeep Active Drive Low. That comes with a crawl ratio of 20:1 in rock mode. So if you're climbing on really steep sections where you need a lot of torque, then that's when the crawl mode comes into play. Now the Jeep Active Drive system also allows you to lock both the front and rear drive shaft for optimal traction. And it's also got hill assist, so if you're going down really steep sections, then the hill assist feature will regulate the throttle and braking to help regulate the vehicle speed in the safest manner possible. All right, so the interior is actually not bad. You've got this super thick outdoor style steering wheel, which I really like. I think it's actually very similar to the Jeep Wrangler. It's also got newer, improved upscale materials used, such as this dimple pattern leather material, as well as this hardened vinyl material used on the center console, and redesigned air vents throughout the interior, which is actually really nice. In the front, you've also got this 10.25-inch all-digital display and a new and improved 10.1-inch Uconnect 5 infotainment system. The stock infotainment screen size is 8.4-inch, but I highly recommend you upgrade to the 10.1-inch screen because the Uconnect infotainment system is really amongst one of the best out there. Super sharp, very fast and snappy. So it's really one of the best in the industry, and you know, if you have the opportunity, definitely try to upgrade. One of the pet peeves that I do have with the interior is that the instrument cluster is a TFT lower grade screen. So while the graphics are actually very similar between the instrument cluster and the infotainment display, the screen quality on the instrument cluster is not as good. You can tell that the refresh rate and the clarity on the infotainment system is just a lot better than the TFT style LCD screen on the instrument cluster, which is a little bit disappointing, but it's not that bad. And it's still got a lot of different menus, really nice graphics that you can scroll through with different menus and settings. Very informative and easy to read as well, which I actually really like. In the front, you've also got various buttons to control various aspects of the vehicle. You can turn on and off automatic engine start stop, traction control, lane departure assist. There are a lot of driver assistance features built into the Jeep Compass. That's also really new for the model year 2022. You've also got a dedicated climate controls in the center, which is also really nice. And you also have climate controls on the instrument cluster as well if you want to control it from there. So there's a little bit of redundancy. Down below, you've also got a compartment bin. So it's got wireless charging where you can just put your smartphone there and it'll automatically charge if your smartphone has wireless charging capability, as well as 2 USB ports, one USB-C and one standard USB port for smartphone connectivity and charging as well. You've got a standard gear shift knob here, very basic, as well as an electronic park brake switch and the select terrain mode where you can switch between auto, snow, sand, mud, or rock. Down below here, you've also got 3 buttons to put the vehicle into 4-wheel drive low and crawl mode. That's exclusive to the Trailhawk trim for a 20:1 crawl ratio. And you can also turn on and off hill assist, where it will regulate the vehicle speed when you're going down really steep sections. And you can also lock the front and rear drive shaft in 4-wheel drive lock for optimal traction. You've also got really basic 2 cup holders here and a very basic compartment bin here. Doesn't have a lot of room. I mean, granted that the fact that this is a compact crossover SUV, it's not much to complain about. But overall, I kind of like the overall materials. It's not super high end, but kind of gets the job done, and it's definitely a step up from the previous generation. You've also got an Alpine stereo sound system, which is actually not bad. It's about in the same par as the Bose sound system. It's not high end or high fidelity, but it's actually really nice, and the cabin actually makes the sound very immersive. So there's definitely some engineering efforts made to the overall cabin interior experience. The seats are not bad. It's a mixture of kind of rough vinyl and cloth. They are electronic. I can adjust them electronically. However, the passenger side on the Trailhawk trim is all manual. Overall, I really like the interior. You've also got this really nice panoramic sunroof that actually really helps elevate the overall driving experience, especially for the rear passengers. Now, of course, this is a compact crossover SUV, so the rear legroom is not going to be the greatest. And I do have to say that the overall chassis does feel relatively short. I still have an okay amount of headroom, but if you're trying to get in and out of the vehicle, it's a little bit tricky because the chassis is actually relatively short. So if you're kind of a taller adult, then that's also going to be, it might be a slight problem. One of the other pet peeves I have is that these windshield and light turn signal switches are mounted in a really weird position. It's really far back And I don't really like to admit this as a guy, but I have really short fingers, so I really have to reach really far back to actually activate these switches, which kind of makes it a little bit uncomfortable. There's also buttons mounted in the back of the steering wheel, which is kind of awkward. They allow you to adjust the volume as well as different media settings, different channels on your radio, which is, I find it kind of awkward because you can do it on the infotainment system or even on the buttons mounted on the steering wheel. So there's a little bit of redundancy, but overall, I like the interior. It's not bad. The visibility is okay, but definitely I think the electronics of the infotainment system, especially with the navigation, really good user experience on the infotainment display. I really like it. This is definitely one of my favorite pieces of the Jeep Compass. And overall, it's really nice car to drive, and it's really easy to use. All right, so on the road, the Jeep Compass is relatively easy to drive. You got this really thick and authoritative grip steering wheel, which I really like. Really easy to control. Visibility is not bad. However, once you really try to push the Jeep Compass, you can definitely hear the engine moaning and groaning and really struggling, despite the fact that it's got 177 horsepower. It also feels relatively heavy as well, but it's got that really unique Jeep character drive feel. It definitely feels very bomb-proof, as if you're driving in a tank, and that's kind of the really unique driving experience of the Jeep Compass, unlike a lot of other mainstream crossover SUVs that just feel really light and cheap. So that really makes the Jeep Compass driving experience really unique in that sense. Of course, you've got the off-roading capability, and with the Trailhawk trim here, we actually sit a bit higher with the higher ground clearance of 8.6 inches. But I do have to say, the engine responsiveness is not that great. I mean, I can't really modulate the engine power that well, despite the fact that it's got a 9-speed automatic transmission. It's also got a fair bit of steering dead zone, which is actually pretty typical in a lot of Jeep vehicles, given the off-road driving characteristic. But it's overall pretty easy to manage and control, especially when you're driving on the road. Alright, so what's my final take on the Jeep Compass? Well, let's start off with the powertrain. It really depends on your lifestyle, because if you're just using the Jeep Compass for a go-around and get-around car, there are probably better options out there that are more comfortable and easy to drive and more responsive. However, if you're actually a weekend warrior or outdoor adventurer, like I mentioned, then the Jeep Compass, especially the Trailhawk trim that's off or trail rated, that has a lot of off-roading capability, that is where the Jeep Compass is going to really shine. And I don't really think there are many other options out there in the subcompact category that's got the same off-road performance as the Jeep Compass. So depending on lifestyle, if you're just using the Jeep Compass as a go-around, get-around car, I'd probably give it maybe a 3.5 out of 5. However, if you're actually planning or intending to take the Jeep Compass off-road, then I would give it a much higher rating of a 4.5. Truth be told, you just can't have it all, and you really have to choose whether you want just an everyday go-around, get-around car, or something that you really want to go and take it off-roading. Moving on to the interior. The interior is not bad. It's definitely a step up from the last generation with better materials and a panoramic sunroof. But overall, I really like the unique user experience, especially with the thick grip steering wheel. And the overall feel is actually not bad, and it's not too tight overall. The rear seating is a little bit tight, and the rear cargo space can be a little bit limited. So I'm going to rate the overall interior a 4 out of 5, which is actually not bad. Moving on to the electronics. The Uconnect 5 infotainment system is definitely one of my favorites. It's very snappy, high quality, high definition, very responsive, and it's got really nice graphics as well. I really absolutely love it. It's really, I really think it's one of the best out there. However, I think the instrument cluster screen quality, the TFT screen, kind of downgrades the overall electronics quite a bit, unfortunately, but the Jeep Compass does have a lot of active drive safety features. So overall, I would rate the overall electronics a 4 out of 5. Nevertheless, that's my take on the 2022 Jeep Compass. I really hope you liked this video, and if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, keep driving, and until next time.